So have you seen the discussions again about garlic safety in horses? So gosh, about every couple weeks or every couple months, there is some discussion online about garlic and whether it's safe to give your horses. So there's a lot of people saying that garlic is safe unless it's fed in really large amounts. And what I want to talk about is the research of why they're saying it. So the belief largely comes from a study in which only 4 horses were used. That's not a lot. 2 control horses and 2 horses that received garlic. And the supplemented horses were received more than 200 milligrams, which basically breaks out for a 1,000-pound horse. That would be more than 90 grams or a little over 3 ounces. So basically, to give it sort of an idea of how you know how much that is, that's roughly about a cup of garlic powder every day for 71 days. And these are the horses that developed Heinz body anemia. So that's study 1. Heinz body anemia was studied. The horses were given 90 grams per day for 71 days. So what exactly is Heinz body anemia? So we have to understand the red blood cells contain hemoglobin, and that's the protein responsible for carrying oxygen throughout the body. When hemoglobin is damaged by oxidative stress, it can denature and form clumps inside the red blood cell. Those clumps are called Heinz bodies. The damaged red blood cells then are removed from the circulation or destroyed more rapidly than what would be with normal. So when enough of them are lost, the horse develops a Heinz body anemia, reducing the body's ability to carry oxygen. Because the study used such a large amount of garlic, it's often used to reassure horse owners that they're safe feeding garlic if they don't use these really high doses. But there's another study that raised an important question. In that study, 12 horses were used, not just 2, and they were divided into 2 groups. 6 horses receiving 90 grams of garlic, and the other 6 served as controls. So this went on for 83 days, so a little bit longer. And this worked out to be, for a 1,000-pound horse, about 2 to 3 tablespoons, so a lot less garlic, of course, for a longer time. So that's this study here. We did study 2, where they used 20 grams of garlic over 83 days. And then they found differences in these 3 parameters. So let's talk about them. So they did not look at Heinz body formation in this study. However, the garlic supplemented horses showed declining trends in 3 parameters. In the hemoglobin, and hemoglobin is the oxygen carrying protein inside red blood cells. In the hematocrit, that decreased also, and that tells us what percentage of the blood actually consists of red blood cells. And then, of course, the red blood cell count also decreased. So that measures the actual number of circulating red blood cells. So by the end of this study, 5 of the 6 garlic supplemented horses had lower blood values in these areas than they did in the beginning of the study. So the researchers stated that these findings may indicate a slight anemia, although the small sample size really means the results should be interpreted cautiously and maybe repeated. So this research does not prove that feeding a modest amount of garlic will cause Heinz body, right? So because it didn't study this, it didn't show this. But what it does show is that the high dose Heinz body study is not the only research we should consider. So measurable changes in red blood cell values were also observed at these lower doses, and they were considerably lower doses when garlic was fed for almost 3 months, right? So that's a good study to know. And that brings me to the larger message here, is that garlic is an herb, and like any herb, it isn't harmless simply because it's natural. That doesn't mean you shouldn't use it though. It means that it contains biologically active compounds, and that's exactly why it can be used therapeutically. But it's also why the dose, the preparation, the duration of use, and the individual horse should all be taken in consideration. So the takeaway about all of this and about all these discussion about garlic, all herbs and nutraceuticals should be selected with knowledge and used with the same thoughtfulness and respect as any other medicine. Garlic deserves that same thoughtful approach. So I hope that clarifies what's going around and what's being talked about as far as whether you should or shouldn't feed garlic and what the studies actually show.